everyone, welcome to today's video. Now today's video is something that I think I've talked about before, but I'm going to do it again because I'm better at editing now. So I think it's no secret that when people go to the craft store and they buy yarn, the yarn often is not in a format that they would like to work in. Because yarn nowadays are wound by machines, and people have their preferred way of winding yarn, and if you keep it in the way that the machine wound it, unfortunately it's likely to get retangled. So I often wind mine into balls. My balls all come from the outside. They have one end on the outside, the other end is buried deep within, and while they do have the unfortunate habit of rolling away every so often, I know that when I roll it into a ball like this, that it's not going to get unbearably tangled on me, like it often would if it was in the craft store. So, probably the most common configuration that you would see in your chain craft store, and often in many other craft stores as well, would be a skein like this. So that's what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you how to roll a ball starting from this format. So when you get a skein like this, the problem is, since this is machine wound, if you try to wind it as a human again, it's not gonna look the same. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take off the little circular thing that's around it. We thank it for its service. Put it to the side. So now you've got two ends of the yarn, and you can start from either end. There's one end that's going to be on the outside like this. The other end is buried deep within. Now when you're going to start winding it, if you do want to wind it from the outside, just be aware that the yarn skein is going to jump all around. But if you pull from the center pull, it's going to stay still. So in order to get the center pull, whatever side the loose end is closer to, go for the opposite side. So you're going to take your fingers like this, you're going to reach inside the middle like this, you're going to grab something and you're going to pull it out. It's going to look like a tangled mess when you pull it out like this. But you can just take the time to untangle it. We know the end is somewhere in here because this end only has one. I only have one end coming out from the skein. So now I have the other end of my yarn. So when you make a ball, you can decide to wrap something around it to get it started, but you don't have to. You can use the yarn to wrap it itself. So you're going to take all four of your fingers and you're going to hold the yarn right here, or actually closer to here, and you're just going to keep wrapping it around your hand several times until it seems thick enough. This depends on the yarn that you're using, and it depends on how much of it you have. If it seems pretty thick, you're not going to need as many wraparounds as you would if it was thin. You also want to be careful not to cut off your circulation. You do want it to be nice and tight, but you don't want it to cut off your circulation because you're going to need your fingers later to use the yarn. When it gets to a nice thick point, but where this part is still longer than this part, you're going to slide it off your hands and you're going to pinch that sucker together like this, almost like it's a bow tie, yeah? Then you're just going to take the yarn and you start wrapping it around the other way. And you do this several times as well, so you get that nice bow tie shape. Now here's where the magic happens. Before it gets too thick and you lose this part again, you're going to secure this by bending this in half like that. Yeah? Now you're going to take your yarn and you're going to wind it around like this. You're going to wind it so those two halves are stuck together. And now when you start winding the yarn, you're going to start turning as you wind it. If your yarn is feeling a bit tight, it's not giving you enough of a thing, or if you decide to do it from the outside, at this point you would have to like pull extra yarn out. But because I decided to do the center pull like this, if I just give it a light tug, the yarn should just come right out. But at this point, it's important that you keep turning the ball as you go around. So that way you kind of get like that shape going on. And every so often, when you get to a particularly flat point, you're going to turn the ball, pinch the yarn there, and then start doing the turn around that point. This is how you're going to keep the ball relatively round. You want it to be as close to a sphere as possible. Obviously, because it's yarn and you're human, it's not going to be a perfect sphere. But you want to avoid any footballs. Yeah, I mean like American football, not the football of the rest of the world. You don't want that like oblong pointed shape. And that is the shape that would come about if you just kept turning this way without switching sides. And at this point, you just keep on doing this until you have the rest of your ball. You just keep winding it out like that. Here you can see we kind of got a flat thing again. So at this point, I'm just going to switch that flat part. And you can go either this way, or you can, like I'm turning it clockwise right now. You can turn it clockwise, counterclockwise. It doesn't really matter. Whatever works for you. You can see at this point, there's kind of a point forming there. So I know when I choose my next side, I'm not going to go on that extra point there. I might go on the flat part right there. Yeah. And I just keep going like that. So I'm going to time lapse the next bit for you, so then that way I can just show you the end. Alright, now I'm towards the very end of it, and you see I've only got this little bit left. Now when you come across a knot like this, there's something very important to remember. When they sold you the skein of yarn, there are only 2 ends to the string. And that means the rest of it's all connected. So before you get out the pair of scissors and you add more ends, you can try to see if you can find where one of the ends are. So I know I have this one right here, but the other end is somewhere in here. And machines don't wind it as tightly as humans, so as long as you don't make it any worse, the yarn is going to be relatively loose. Yeah. So I can kind of just pull it and just let the string kind of guide its way for the rest of it. And, oh, see, I found the end of it right here. There you go. It all came loose, right? So for the very end of this, when it comes to securing it, it's not going to take much to secure it. Basically, all that you're going to do is you're going to take this end right here, and you're going to take a couple of the things that you already wound it, and you're just going to slide that piece underneath and just pull it through, and your yarn is secure. When it comes time to take it out, you just gotta, if you're not sure how to pull it, you can just, here, I'll take it out of the glare. You'll just pull it this way, and you can see the string that moves, and it's like, oh, that's my string, and you can just pull it that way, and boom, your string is free again. And that is a yarn ball that you can wind in order to deal with much less tangles in your work, which, honestly, the less you can deal with tangles, the better. Anyway, that was today's entertainment. Have a nice day.